Hi, I'm Jacqueline Nelson, and I'm here with Rahim Madhavji, president of Knightsbridge Foreign Exchange, and we're here to talk about the market turmoil and its effect on the Canadian dollar, which has already fallen to the lowest level in more than a decade. So, Rahim, what's driving this downturn?
Well, what we're seeing right now is the big elephant in the room is China. With China having potential issues with global growth, we're seeing that ripple through the commodity market, ripple through oil prices, and when China sneezes, Canada's getting a cold.
So people are looking also ahead and they're wondering, how low is this going to go? What's the outlook look like for the Canadian dollar?
Well, one of the biggest factors alongside China and global growth prospects is also commodities and oil. We used to have oil at $100 a barrel. Now we're close to about $40 a barrel. What we're going to see in the short term is a lot more volatility, a lot more weakness in the Canadian dollar, potentially grinding lower. So as a potential short-term target, at the end of the year, we might see the loonie go as low as 135, so 1.35 Canadian for $1 US. Don't really see a lot of catalyst for the Canadian dollars in the short term. In the longer term, when oil prices start to creep back a little bit higher, the Canadian economy is a little bit more sound, we're going to start to see the Canadian dollar start to rebound. We're also going to benefit from being close to a strong U.S. economy, because what's good for the U.S. is good for Canada. We might be a year or 2 years away from seeing a little bit more appreciation in the loonie as we have seen in the past.
All right, and coming back to that sort of short-term view, all this turmoil definitely being watched by the Bank of Canada. Do you have a view on a possible rate cut? Are they watching the loonie as well? I'm sure they are.
Well, the Bank of Canada is definitely watching the loonie. They're definitely watching China, and they're definitely looking at the domestic GDP numbers. And so far, things haven't been looking good. I think the Bank of Canada is really nervous right now. I think they're itching towards another rate cut by the end of the year. And if we see oil hit $35 a barrel or even lower than that, I think we are going to see the Bank of Canada step in, try to boost again the domestic economy, try to stimulate the economy. Has to try to do what it can to boost the Canadian economy.
And so how about individual Canadians or businesses? How have you seen them react to a lower loonie?
So a lot of the importers, a lot of the Canadians that are purchasing U.S. real estate, we've seen them really panic over the last several months. They're looking at potentially purchasing U.S. real estate, and when they started looking at it, the Canadian dollar was maybe 5 to 10% higher. All of a sudden, it's been free falling, it's been falling lower. And they haven't budgeted for these types of things. So we're seeing a lot of Canadians that are buying U.S. dollars start to panic, starting to wonder, when is it going to get back to, the glory days of what we had it, a year or 2 years ago. On the flip side, exporters, they're really benefiting. They're starting to receive U.S. dollar revenues, and this is such an extremely high point for the U.S. and Canadian dollar that they're really benefiting. They're able to expand. They're looking to grow, invest more resources towards expanding into the U.S. market. So I think if you're a buyer of U.S. dollars, you need to figure out how to be a little bit more flexible. So if you're thinking about, a vacation in the U.S., you might want to do a vacation in Canada. If you're a business that's importing from the U.S., you might want to look for an alternative supplier that's a little bit more local. And if you're an exporter, you're obviously investing as many resources as you can to target clients that are going to give you U.S. dollars and benefit from that. I think you're going to see a lot more volatility in the short term, so everyone has to pay close attention to the headlines.
All right, volatility and flexibility. We'll keep watching. Thanks, Rahim, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.